Good morning and welcome again to another edition of Orphan Car Garage YouTube. If you've been following us for a while, you probably already know that we're pretty fond of the model vehicle we have here in front of us. This happens to be a Chevrolet Corvair, which we profile quite a bit here and on our website. We're a huge fan of these vehicles because they fit the criteria quite well here. Affordable classic cars. And I think for years these cars were sorely underrated. They are starting to come around and values are starting to creep up. So any Corvair, especially the late model design 65 to 69 that you purchase today, surely going to appreciate in the future. This car in particular, here we have the very last year of build, 1969, of which only 6,000 vehicles were built. And the 1969s in particular have a very fun story behind them. Nova was becoming incredibly popular and the Corvair was dwindling down. So John DeLorean had become president of Chevrolet in 1968. He was not fond of the Corvair and the controversy surrounding it. And knowing that the vehicle's life was short-lived, he ordered the Corvairs off the main assembly line. They had been being built with the Nova, which was becoming very, very popular, and production was falling behind to fill dealer orders, and the Corvair on the assembly line was slowing things down. So at one point, John DeLorean ordered the Corvair off the main line, and the cars towards the end were basically hand assembled in a makeshift assembly line in an old cafeteria at the Willow Run production plant. Real fun story behind these. There's a lot of write-ups. A lot of the guys that were involved in the build of the last Corvairs have been interviewed over the years. Sadly, most of them now have passed, but we have a lot of their stories in writing, and really fun stories, and it makes owning a 1969 Corvair quite special. Referring to the plate here in the car in front of us, and yes, the new owner will get that fun plate, "I'm safe." And most of you probably know the meaning behind that plate. Our friend Ralph Nader, who in the mid-1960s, early 1960s, was a young, thriving lawyer who decided he wanted to take on a big American car company, and that was General Motors. And he wanted to show everything that General Motors was doing wrong as far as safety in the industry and how they were cutting corners to at the expense of people's safety. One of the chapters in his book refers to the Corvair, most notably the early design Corvairs, 1960 to 1963, and their rear suspension design. We won't get too much into that on this video because this vehicle here is a 1969. And for the 1965 model year, the vehicle was completely redesigned. The car is absolutely beautiful in design, very Italian, very European looking. And any issues that Ralph Nader may have had with the early designs were certainly rectified by the 1965 design. Quick side note, the Corvair was originally planned to go out of production with the 1967 introduction of the Camaro. But it's absolutely because of Ralph Nader's book, and this has never been clarified, but it's pretty much been assumed. Because of Ralph Nader's book being introduced in the mid-1960s, I think it came out in late 1965, if General Motors had killed the Corvair in the late 1966 for the introduction of the 67 Camaro, that to them would have been admitting guilt. So rather than admit guilt and to show up Ralph Nader, the Corvair continued on. It soldiered on right through 1969. Well, May of 1969 to be exact, of which, like I said, only 6,000 cars were built. So 1967, 8, and 9 Corvairs are all quite rare. No real model changes over those years, just did what they had to do to keep up with safety standards. But here we have a 1969. The 1969s are a very special vehicle, especially to me. I've always been very attracted to the 1969s and their story. Again, only 6,000 were built. Most of those were basically hand-built. This is car number 1069. So this is a fairly early vehicle. I believe this is actually a car that was still built on the assembly line with the Novas. You can probably imagine that John DeLorean may have walked by this car when it was being built and stuck his middle finger up at it. But we all know what ended up happening to John DeLorean. But nothing against John DeLorean. He was the father of the GTO that we know of today, the original muscle, one of the original muscle cars. But again, he was also the father of the Vega, and very instrumental in the Vega, and then again his own masterpiece of the 1980s. But again, we're not going to get into that here. This 1969 Monza Coupe has come to us twice at Orphan Car Garage, and I'm very proud to present it to you again. This car created a lot of stir when I posted it the first time. It sold rather quickly, to the dismay of a lot of interested people. So now, folks, is your second chance to buy this vehicle. The owner, the gentleman that purchased it from us in Michigan, has decided that his medical issues are such that he's just not able to enjoy the car as much as he did for the first year of ownership. So rather than let it sit, he's given it back to us. We're the caretakers for this car once again, and we're trying to find a new home for this orphan. Beautiful, beautiful 1969 Monza Coupe in glacier blue with a blue vinyl interior. Very classic 1960s. Just a stunning, stunning automobile. This car spent a majority of its life with a Corvair collector on the North Shore of Massachusetts. It was his estate that we originally purchased the car from. He loved this car and he was fastidious about it. He did some modifications to the vehicle that enhanced its driving quality, but he didn't do it in such a way that it took away from the stock appearance of the car, other than maybe those torque thrust wheels, which I think give the car such an incredible stance. Those are bolt-on. If you didn't like them, you could easily go back to the original 13-inch wheels. Very easy to rectify. But generally, I like a stock car. I don't generally go for aftermarket add-ons like wheels, but on this car, I think it just sets it off incredibly. The car was repainted at some point in its life, probably by the gentleman on the North Shore, Massachusetts, but obviously never rusted. This car has never been rusted. There's no signs of any former rust repair. The car is completely rust-free and appears to always have been completely rust-free. We've tried to find any previous rust repair or even accident damage, and we've come up short with nothing. The interior is completely original. Even the carpet, we believe, is original, and it's in beautiful condition. A little difficult to see with the sun and the shadows. I'm not going to complain about the weather. We're heading into the 4th of July weekend here in Boston, and it's quite warm, but I complain all winter about the cold, so I'm certainly not going to complain about the warmth. Been very, very bright and sunny this week, as you can see. Generally, I try to wait for a cloudy day to do my videos, but there just hasn't been one for 5 days. I guess that's a good problem to have. But again, interior of this car is completely original and in absolutely beautiful, beautiful condition. The 1969s all had headrests in the seats. It was a mandate by 1969. Also, shoulder harnesses. So this vehicle is full of seat belts. Front shoulder harnesses were standard for the 1969 model year, along with those headrests. And this car is so equipped. You can see there the seat belts. The gentleman added the accessory console that Clark's Corvair Parts here in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts makes for the vehicle. That's an easy lift in or lift out item if you want to keep the car stock at a car show. But these are great. It's a great armrest and a great cup holder, because as we know, in the 1960s, cup holders and armrests weren't really a thing. Again, the glacier paint on this car just gleams. The chrome is virtually perfect. The bezels, the black lines and those bezels tend to fade out over time. They're like brand new. I'm going to assume that when he painted this vehicle, he had replaced a lot of the trim with NOS trim, because it's just that good. Because even a car that resides in warmer climate all its life, the trim can deteriorate just by time. If it's original, it's impeccable. I think it's too good to be original. I think it's been replaced with NOS. And again, that cool I'm Safe plate from Michigan, just a novelty plate, but you will get that with the vehicle. Beautiful, beautiful, gleaming glacier blue paint. This was a very popular color for the 1969 model year. Not as popular as the greens, but glacier blue was up there. And I'm glad this is the blue and not the green. Bottom of the windshield on these is very common to corrode. You've got absolutely nothing. No cracking there at the lead points where Fisher body leads in the base of the windshield and the C-pillar. Just a beautiful, beautiful condition. The trim on the car, the wheels. The gentleman did buy a 5th wheel, so there was a matching spare tire in the trunk. Tire and wheel matching. I'll be posting pictures of that. Again, the trim, bumpers, it has the optional bumper guards. Aha, a 140 horsepower engine. This car came from the factory as a 140 engine, sort of a rare feature for 1969 as they were dwindling down. This car is a factory 140 engine, but this particular engine is not the original VIN number matching 140. This engine, we believe, is a 1966 140 that he had sent out to a local machine shop and had built up. Pistons board, larger camshafts, performance carburetors. He added several horsepower to this vehicle. We're thinking about 160 total. So from the original 140 horsepower, we're thinking this car has about 160 horsepower now. Excuse me. Still very, very drivable for today's roads. Nothing obscene. Just nice upgrades. Very, very, very well done. You see that aluminum pulley there for the belt. No expense spared on this build at all. And I have some receipts from the machine shop, but unfortunately not a whole lot of information as to what was done to the motor, because as I said, the gentleman had passed away and didn't leave a whole lot behind as far as paperwork goes for his heirs. But talking to people that knew him, they said he never did anything on the cheap, and I always wanted everything done right. So this motor was done right, probably in the early 2000s. Made it to that 140 horsepower engine is a Power Glide automatic transmission. Mounted here on the dash, right there. Little unusual to have a Power Glide automatic with the 140. A lot of the 140s were made it to a 4-speed 4-shift, and I do know a lot of people prefer that, but the Power Glide makes it a lot easier for summer traffic going in and out of those car shows, and all your family members can drive the car. And heck, as I get older, I prefer it over the clutching and the shifting myself. Original AM radio. He added some useful gauges there under the ashtray for readouts that the factory didn't give you with the base Monza cluster. So those were always nice to have. And again, no cutting was done to install those. Simply screwed up into the bottom of the dash. So you could remove them if you wanted a complete stock look. But they're nice to have. They really could save you. Beautiful trim. The blue pad on the dashboard in great shape. 30,686 miles. And we believe that that is correct. No reason for us to believe that that is not actual mileage, that the speedometer, odometer has not spun over. In fact, I believe the title states that as well. I know the Massachusetts title we had when we sold the vehicle showed about 28 or 29,000 actual miles. Now we have a Michigan title for the car, as the guy that we sold it to lived in Michigan. I believe it shows the same thing, but I'm pretty much can guarantee you that that's original mileage on this car, 3,686, but it is not the original engine, so I can't say how many miles the engine has on it, except that it was completely overhauled and rebuilt in the early 2000s. Again, the carpet's in beautiful shape. You've got a great little console here with a storage compartment and cup holders. This comes right out if you don't like it. Clark's Corvair Parts designed it. The kick panels are in great shape. Little discoloration, which is very common on the 1969s, 68s and 69s. This blue interior tended to really fade in different hues and colors and really could look funky by the 1980s, but this has been preserved very well. That cardboard shelf in the back is perfect. I'm going to assume that that's probably a reproduction replacement. So, if you're looking for a late model Corvair, if you're looking in particular for a 1969 Corvair, one of the 6,000 built that year, you're not going to find one much better than this. I've been collecting, buying, and selling Corvairs since the 1980s, and I can absolutely stand behind this one and tell you that this is one of the finest ones out there. Arguably one of the best in the country. You probably will not find a better 1969 Corvair Coupe. And the modifications that were done to it keep that stock appearance, but make the car even more drivable than it would have been in 1969. Just a blast drive, gets tons of attention. You're sure to win trophies if that's your thing. Just a great car to have fun with, and still in a somewhat affordable range. This is a 1969, which adds value. And like I said, these things are increasing. So anything that you buy today in the late model Corvair is going to increase in value if you buy it right. And you can buy this car right. We are asking a reasonable $22,900 for this car. Very, very reasonably priced for what the car is. The first person that looks at this car in person will be blown away and will buy it. Like I said, we sold it almost instantly 2 years ago for very close to that asking price, and I could have sold this car 6 times over. So if you're looking for one of the best and you're not afraid to spend the money for one of the best, and you don't want to restore a car, because let's face it, you can't restore this car for $20,000. Just absolutely stunning. Give me a call, 508-954-8090. Check out my website, orphancargarage.com. Follow us on Facebook. I'll have a bunch of pictures of this car there posted today. And let me know what you think. Comment below. If you're interested, give me a call. And have a good 4th of July if you're seeing this video before the 4th. If not, you see it after the 4th. I hope you had a good 4th of July and you enjoy the rest of your summer. Keep watching. Hit the subscribe button. I got a lot of cool stuff coming down the road. A couple more Corvairs and some fun oddball stuff other than Corvairs as well. So thanks again, and keep on trucking.